At an unspecified time in the future, the pit is a vertical prison consisting of 333 floors with 2 cellmates sharing each floor, and daily food for the prisoners moves through a hovering platform that lowers from the first level all the way down to the bottom. Prisoners have 2 minutes to consume as much as they can before the platform departs for the next level. Anyone attempting to hoard food for later will face punishment from the administration. As a metaphor for the evil of social hierarchy, the top levels get the most food, while the bottom ones often don't get a bite to eat, although the prisoners are regularly shuffled and assigned to different floors on a monthly basis. As the movie begins, in a different section of the pit, a significant number of children are seen to be playing together on a peculiar pyramid, and a montage of prisoners is shown where they are interviewed about their favorite dish. Zamyatin requests pizza and explains that he might become anxious if he doesn't receive it daily, recalling an incident when he accidentally set his parents' house ablaze while they were sleeping. Perempuan states her favorite food is the ham croquettes her ex used to prepare for her, and that she's entering the facility because she needs time to forget her past actions. Every single one of them signs a contract that guarantees they get to enjoy their favorite dishes every day. Each prisoner is also permitted to bring a single item of their choosing with them to their cell. Eventually, Zamyatin and Perempuan find themselves on level 24. When Zamyatin checks the platform for his pizza, he's disheartened to see others have taken bites and swiped the toppings. Disputes from above reveal that the prisoners from level 21 consumed food that wasn't theirs. Feeling infuriated and that his side of the bargain isn't being honored, Zamyatin grabs some chicken and is about to take a bite, but he's interrupted by Robespierre and his cellmate from level 23. It turns out that a faction of prisoners follows a self-imposed guideline stating each person can only consume the dish they selected during the interview or trade with others voluntarily, ensuring everyone is fed without exception. Those adhering to this guideline are referred to as loyalists, while those who do not comply are labeled barbarians. Robespierre emphasizes that if Zamyatin eats something else out of spite, it will create a ripple effect, leaving the lower levels without food. Zamyatin disregards this and is about to take the first bite, but his cellmate, Perempuan, who is on the same page as everyone else, warns him that if he eats the chicken that doesn't belong to him, there will indeed be consequences and chaos on other floors. He ultimately stops when she offers him her croquettes. After trying them and finding them delicious, he agrees to follow the rules for the day, but warns that if tomorrow there's no meat on his pizza, there's gonna be no going back. Robespierre also reminds him that he's got to finish his meal before the platform moves down. After the platform starts descending, the cellmates of level 24 introduce their names to each other. Later, Zamyatin struggles with a weird dry cough while trying to shave his back. Suddenly, the lights on the levels turn red, and we hear screams in various languages. Communication from level 44 has been cut off, meaning they can't know if the food is reaching all 333 levels of the pit. Robespierre tells Zamyatin that prisoners from level 19 and 20 are coming down to 21 to defend his pizza, just like others on level 42 and 43 who are coming down to level 44 to keep an eye on things and make sure the rules are being followed. Out of nowhere, everyone watches as the platform shoots up at lightning speed toward the surface, taking out anyone who gets in its way. The following day, the prisoners from level 21 become incensed over the regulations, and Robespierre declares they may have to fight for their food. Perempuan immediately dismantles her bed to retrieve a metal bar she can wield as a weapon. By the time the platform arrives at her level, there is already a deceased man on it. Then Robespierre and a man from 21 tumble onto it, while a woman from above keeps kicking off the food that has fallen on her level, fearing punishment for a mistake. However, her level is already heating up, and she soon catches fire, causing her body to tumble onto the platform as well. While Robespierre and the other man continue to fight, Perempuan extinguishes the flames with her bedsheets. Zamyatin, however, stays frozen in place the whole time. Unfortunately, the woman is already dead. Perempuan then attempts to join the fight, only to be quickly overpowered, while the man from 21 is knocked unconscious. At that moment, the platform begins descending, prompting Perempuan and Robespierre to hurriedly toss all the food that has fallen onto their level into the pit. The temperature starts to drop rapidly, but fortunately they dispose of all the food before freezing to death. After the platform departs, Zamyatin tries to attack the man who ate his pizza, but is stopped by Robespierre. Zamyatin blames him for holding on to a law that, in his eyes, denies them the freedom to eat as they please, the same law that he believes oppresses them and might have caused all of this. Robespierre panics and weeps as he realizes the burned woman is dead. Zamyatin tries to console him, and Robespierre snaps, holding him by the neck. Perempuan has to shout at them to intervene. The unconscious man from 21 is tied up, and Robespierre announces he'll take the body down to the lower levels in search of the anointed ones. Zamyatin is puzzled, so Robespierre shares the tale. Some time ago, a man became known as the Master or the Messiah. He was the one who devised the equitable distribution rules, but nobody knows if he is still alive or if he ever truly existed. The Master delivered a message of hope, claiming he survived an entire month in a low level without food by meditating. The following month, he awakened at the very bottom, where food never reached, so he resorted to cannibalism and nourished the needy with his own leg. Those who consumed the Master's flesh are the anointed ones, and since then, they have spread his message of solidarity. Zamyatin remains skeptical of the story, and says that Robespierre comes up with a new rule every day before the lights go out. Robespierre dismisses the taunts and tosses the burned woman's body into the pit. Eventually, all the pieces land at the bottom, where cannibals seize them to feed. The next day, the platform delivers the pizza Zamyatin desired, and he finally gets to eat. Robespierre consumes his dish and disposes of the food from deceased prisoners in the toilet. He explains that arbitrary leftover distribution only benefits a select few, and would only incite more conflicts and violence. Robespierre then assigns a few dishes for Zamyatin and Perempuan to safeguard before departing on the platform with the prisoner. Days begin to pass, and Zamyatin and Perempuan enjoy their respective dishes. They discard the leftovers to prevent trouble, but when no one is watching, Zamyatin sneaks a bite as well. Each day, the duo grows closer, assisting each other with personal tasks like grooming and sharing their food. To keep herself occupied, Perempuan sketches on the wall by scraping it with razors. On the final day of the month, Perempuan invites Zamyatin to draw something on the wall too. However, he states he's more of a science enthusiast and dedicated most of his life to studying math. Zamyatin writes an equation on the wall and explains it led him to quit because the solution is an imaginary number. He concludes that if they accept something without a physical reality as a valid solution, then he couldn't trust math ever again. That day, he quit his position at the university, left his research behind, and deserted his family to return to his parents' home. Later that evening, they learned that the food has reached level 175, something that had never happened before. Everyone begins to celebrate, and Perempuan asks Zamyatin to dance with her. After a moment of hesitation, he agrees, and they enjoy themselves together. The following day, Zamyatin and Perempuan are horrified to find themselves on level 180. Desperation begins to take over the nearby levels, but Perempuan remains firm in her belief in the system's functionality. Still, the situation is confusing, since communication is cut off starting from level 169. They receive news that a lot of people died last month, which means there are probably new prisoners on the upper floors who'll have to learn to respect the laws. When the platform arrives, it holds no food whatsoever. Days drag on, and the pair has to endure their hunger. The arrival of the platform no longer distracts them, since they know there won't be anything to eat. Once again, Perempuan draws on the walls to keep herself occupied. Zamyatin's chosen item is a lighter, which he uses to burn his clothes for amusement. Eventually, he starts getting burns on his skin as well, and Perempuan has to intervene. Suddenly, Zamyatin vomits a massive amount of blood, indicating he's unwell. At that moment, a head falls through the pit. Voices from above declare that some anointed ones are traversing the levels to eliminate barbarians. Days continue to pass as Perempuan focuses on caring for Zamyatin, while the people below them start to appear emaciated. Body parts keep falling down the pit too. It seems the anointed ones are still engaged in battle, while some watch the scene with satisfaction, convinced that the law has finally been applied justly. against those who show no respect for the rules. Others deeply lament that they couldn't protect the food that was on the platform. Zamutin's cough gets worse by the minute, growing more violent as time goes on. Messages from above indicate the Anointed Ones are getting closer. Perempuan hears that on floors 169 and 168, all that's left is chaos and bad behavior. The people on those levels have started being labeled barbarians because they're trying to sabotage the already fragile communication between the different levels of the pit. People start pointing out a list of barbarians. The list includes the fat guy on 24 who consumed food that belonged to the deceased. To safeguard her partner, Perempuan claims they previously resided on level 46. Turning her attention back to Zamyatin, he, barely able to speak, confesses that he knows his end is near, that he's gonna die soon if he doesn't get proper food. Faced with this desperate admission, Perempuan, in an act of compassion, suggests that they do whatever it takes to survive. Later that night, Zamyatin reflects on the interview. He had attempted to explain that he arrived at the facility because people feared him, but the interviewer uncovered the truth. Zamyatin dropped out of school at 16, all his business endeavors failed, his wife and children cast him out, and even his parents grew weary of him. They sent him to the facility in hopes of instilling some discipline. Convinced he has nothing left to live for, and that Perempuan shouldn't face repercussions for protecting him, Zamyatin prepares to use his lighter to take his own life. Just before doing so, he asks her to go and see his kids when she gets out of here and tell them their father has always loved them. Moments later, he lights himself up on fire and jumps into the pit. Perempuan weeps as she witnesses his body fall down. Prisoners on the lower floors try to catch him hoping for meat, but the flames nearly burn them as well, so they leave him. The body lands at the bottom, and the cannibals wait for the fire to extinguish before feasting. At the beginning of the new month, Perempuan awakens on level 51 with Sahabat, who selected plums as her food and a pillow as her item. She's also missing an arm. From the upper levels, word comes that no barbarian has been identified, and from the lower levels they report that up to level 71, everyone is loyalist or a newcomer. When the platform arrives, the plums are absent, but Perempuan persuades Sahabat to adhere to the rules. Suddenly, a new uproar breaks out when they spot a barbarian on level 54. He attacked his new cellmate, and they recognized him as someone who was on level 2 last month, where he ate like a pig as the prisoners on level 1 couldn't stop him. Perempuan volunteers to go punish him, but the rules dictate that only 4 prisoners directly above the level with a barbarian should descend to punish them. At night, Perempuan hallucinates Zamyatin in the room with her. Sometime later, a head falls down the pit, and the women learn that an anointed one known as Dagenbabi is eliminating barbarians indiscriminately. When the platform arrives again on level 51, Sahabat jumps on it to punish the barbarian on 54. Eager to avenge Zamyatin, Perempuan decides to accompany her. As the platform descends, the prisoners that are supposed to punish the barbarian remind the pair that they can't be down here. Perempuan argues that 6 people are better than 4, but they warn her that it's against the law as they're endangering the communication chain. Unable to deter the women, one of the prisoners decides to stay and preserve the chain so the rest can go down. Eventually, they arrive at level 54, where the barbarian attacks first and stabs a prisoner on the platform. A fierce fight erupts, leaving everyone bleeding and bruised. After numerous beatings are exchanged, the barbarian feigns surrender only to leap onto the platform when it's about to depart. A furious Sahabat jumps as well and begins assaulting him, prompting the barbarian to take her down and prepare to stab her. At that moment, Perempuan lands on the platform as it halts at the next level. While Perempuan rescues Sahabat, another prisoner leaps onto the barbarian and starts choking him. Unfortunately, the man gets stabbed as well, so Perempuan intervenes to start attacking him again. He begins to weep and explains he hasn't done anything wrong. He's been in the facility for over a year and had to eat something to survive. He only wishes to live like everyone else. Perempuan takes pity on him and allows him to escape on the platform, blocking Sahabat when she tries to stop him. That night, Sahabat reveals she's been in the facility for 6 months. When she first arrived, her cellmate explained the rules, and she agreed to comply even if she found them unjust. However, sometime later, They discovered a dying young man and provided him with a deceased prisoner's food to save him. The next day, Dagan Babi arrived to punish them. He took Sahabat's arm and executed her cellmate by strapping her to the bottom of the platform, allowing the cannibals at the end of the pit to consume her. That day, Sahabat understood that nobody ever leaves the facility. The only way to live is by escaping, and Sahabat believes this can be accomplished when the prisoners are gassed and shuffled around at the end of the month. If they can fake their deaths, their bodies will be discarded by administration instead. Sahabat thinks she can achieve this by consuming the oil painting a prisoner brought as their item, but she is unaware of its level. A few days later, they spot a man tied to the bottom of the platform. This indicates that Dagan Babi and his group are getting closer, prompting Sahabat to convince Perempuan to go down to avoid them. Unfortunately, at that moment, the platform halts, bringing Dagan Babi and his followers. Initially, he pretends to be generous and allows them to eat something, but as soon as the platform departs, Dagan orders some of his men to capture Sahabat, Perempuan, and those who accompanied her in the previous fight. Dagan delivers a lengthy speech about how people must adhere to the law rather than interpret it. Making exceptions is merely an excuse for disloyalty, and he reveals he's missing his eyes as if that substantiates his point. Then the group undresses Sahabat and ties her to the bottom of the platform to be sent to the cannibals. Perempuan is restrained with her arm extended over the pit, so when the platform descends, it tears it off. Meanwhile, in a different section of the pit, the children continue to play as they seem to multiply. The following month, Perempuan wakes up on level 72 and meets her new cellmate, Trimagasi, whose item is a knife. His presence confirms that this story takes place before the events of the first movie. When the platform arrives, Trimagasi eats without adhering to the rules. Perempuan has lost faith in this unjust system and jumps on it, encouraging Trimagasi to join her. As they descend, Perempuan persuades more barbarians to come along, including the one she spared. The platform quickly becomes crowded with those who resent the loyalists. A few levels down, Perempuan declares their group is large enough, and they disembark. It is then revealed that the infamous painting is located in that cell, and finding it has been Perempuan's goal all along. Recruiting fellow barbarians was merely a strategy for protection. The next day, Dagan Babi ensures the platform is emptied before it reaches Perempuan's group. He states he'll wait for them to weaken before attacking and killing them, but will consider mercy if they surrender now. A debate arises about how to proceed, and some barbarians choose to descend to the lower levels. Suddenly, Trimagasi interrupts the argument with a suggestion: they should all go down and consume any loyalist they encounter. The group embraces this idea, and as they celebrate, Perempuan recalls sharing her story during the interview. She was once a prominent artist, and the painting Sahabat sought had been her item all along. Her fiancé had a child from a previous marriage, and Perempuan had accidentally caused his death. The next time Perempuan awakens, she tastes meat in her mouth. She has been refusing to eat human flesh. Haunted by hallucinations of her fallen friends, Perempuan has no choice but to begin consuming the meat the barbarians offer her. After some time, the platform approaches, and while everyone prepares for battle, Perempuan discreetly hides the painting in her pants, which is noticed by the spared barbarian. The platform arrives, surrounded with mattresses that abruptly drop, revealing Dagan Babi and his loyalist group, who immediately attack. A brutal fight erupts, with both sides killing mercilessly. It becomes hard to distinguish friend from foe, and Trimagasi inadvertently stabs a woman he had feelings for. Traumatized, he chooses to cease fighting and hides beneath a bed. Meanwhile, the spared barbarian sits atop Perempuan and starts to choke her. Trimagasi observes this and hands her his knife, which she uses to stab her assailant. He dies after asking why the painting was so important. Perempuan then moves to conceal herself with Trimagasi and weeps as the prisoners continue their lethal struggle. Even Dagan Babi succumbs to the violence, and by the end, only Trimagasi and Perempuan remain alive. As the platform descends, the bodies begin to tumble into the pit. Perempuan emerges and notices Dagan Babi is still alive, but she decides against killing him, opting instead to let him suffer until the end. Afterwards, she discards all the remaining bodies down the pit, leaving a now lifeless Dagan for last. She informs Trimagasi of her departure and invites him to accompany her, but he opts to stay, claiming this has been the best month of his life. Then, Perempuan starts to consume her oil painting and loses consciousness with foam in her mouth just before the gas fills the cell. In the different section of the pit, a large group of children struggles to climb the pyramid until a boy finally makes it to the top. At that moment, a light shines upon him, and two adults from administration arrive to take him away. When Perempuan regains consciousness, she finds herself bound to a pile of dead bodies being transported by the facility workers, indicating Sahabat's plan has succeeded. The pile is pushed through the pit, and Perempuan witnesses how the workers clean the cells and rearrange the sleeping prisoners using low gravity. When the workers leave the pile at the end of the pit, Perempuan has a heartbreaking realization: this isn't the exit, this is level 333. She quickly frees herself from the ropes and hides under a bed, while observing the men bring in the chosen child. The boy is placed on another bed, and the pile of bodies is pushed through a hole into a secret level beneath 333. Still feeling guilty about the death of her fiancé's child, Perempuan resolves to redeem herself by saving this one. She leaps to reach the other bed, but accidentally hits her head. Then she picks up the child and attempts to escape, but the gravity hinders her, causing her to strike her head again until she loses consciousness. Perempuan reappears on the platform with the child in her arms and a group of cannibals poised to eat. A man offers her a knife, inviting her to feast on the child, but at that moment she awakens screaming. It's just her and the boy on level 333, and the duo descend to the basement. Perempuan sees herself surrounded by a significant number of prisoners, and one of the prisoners asks her to let the kid ascend, as Perempuan has completed her journey at long last. As she is escorted by the prisoners, the kid ascends to the top to the administration, conveying the message of hope and humanity. As the credits start rolling, it is revealed that after Perempuan, several others have sent children to the administration as a message of sorts, and the final one till date is revealed to be Goreng, as the final moments of the first movie directly connect with the concluding scene of this one. At the basement, Goreng is visited by Perempuan, and the duo seem to share a history as Perempuan embraces him in the final scene, which could mean that Goreng was her fiancé. And with that, the movie ends. We hope you enjoyed our recap. Like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing recaps. See you in the next one.